what changes when an architect is brought on. And maybe we could have Brian start off with that question.
Yeah, I'll say, can I say it depends again? Can we say that again? I mean, it maybe everything changes, maybe nothing changes at all. I guess the reason why I'm hedging is, everybody's going to be, every company's going to be a little bit different in terms of where it is in the maturity of its ecosystem and its sort of life, so to speak. But, I think fundamentally, one thing that we've been touching on, or we've been sort of circling around, is that there's a part that the architect plays in the overall strategic vision of the organization, right? And it's I can't stress the importance of those architects designing not just for what business units want today, right? What they want to deploy today, but where the organization wants to go into the future. So it's important that the company grows. The technical architects have that visibility into what that strategic business roadmap looks like, so they can begin to lay out a technical vision for the ecosystem that is going to support that, right? It's, you build technical debt into these systems, and then unwinding that, unraveling that technical debt, particularly if you've started out as, I think Amber was saying it, one admin who's a ticket taker building stuff out just on demand, right? Without that thought to, what this is going to look like a year from now or 2 years from now. You're building technical debt that's going to need to get addressed at some point or another, right? So, that collaboration probably represents a paradigm shift for a lot of companies that are used to simply dictating requirements to technical teams to execute against, right? Architects should not be ticket takers. They should be, visionaries collaborating with stakeholders on how the ecosystem should evolve to support the business direction, right? There's, for implementation teams, it's going to seem that there's going to be a lot of oversight, not to what they're doing, but also how they're doing it. And fundamentally, in an agile sense, velocity may slow down, right? As you sort of add a little bit more governance around what you're doing, making sure that the solutions are more fully vetted, they're more cross-functionally coordinated across the enterprise, identifying dependencies, technical risks, technical KPIs against performance, data and data integrity, things like that, but I tell the businesses, I tell my kids that slow is smooth and smooth is fast. And, it's an architect's responsibility to ensure that the ecosystem is running smoothly, that things are done correctly the first time, without any surprises, right? And there's never enough time, there's never enough time to do it right. There's always time to do it over. I think it's an architect's responsibility to make sure it gets done right the first time. And that cross-functional planning and awareness of the overall solution context from a feature or initiative is going to ultimately improve quality, reduce risk, and help the business get to where it wants to go sooner rather than later, right?
I definitely agree, and it's something we have to counsel clients on, that bringing on an architect will there's a level of overhead that's a necessary level to support the growth of the business that they have to expect with the rigor and governance that's introduced. Amber, do you have thoughts on what changes when an architect's brought on?
Yeah, to Brian's point, it depends. Often the rigor that is brought by bringing an architect in, because again, you're necessarily bringing in someone with some PTSD, some trauma, some battle scars, and so a good architect can communicate to even a junior team why these things are important without that team having to go through that trauma. And so what can change is the dynamic amongst the team members and their stakeholders, right? If you've got folks who are used to order taking and all of a sudden they're empowered to push back, that's a change in dynamic for everybody. And it can be tricky because people, right? Stakeholders want what they want when they want it. They don't care about your governance and your overhead. And so explaining the business value of that and how it supports the broader outcomes of the organization is something that an architect can really add value to that conversation. You know, we've touched very briefly a little bit on Agile and how that oftentimes when an architect comes in, they bring in some flavor of Scradgel fall, I've heard it called, you know, trying to move to a very iterative approach, because again, to Brian's point, as you put something in place, it's tech debt. And so be able to iterate on a solution over and over again, knowing you're going to come back to that portion of the code base, knowing you're going to come back to that solution, means that you are able to pivot faster, means that you are able to adjust more quickly. And that is valuable to business stakeholders. So being able to articulate all that and sell them on that speed and agility is super important. So what changes? Everything and nothing.
That almost seems Zen-like. Ezra.
Yeah, it's going from the what you're doing to the how and the why. You're evolving beyond this 3 inches in front of your face thing. Let me be very clear. I am not advocating doing mediocre work. But it is fully possible to communicate well, do mediocre work, and be thought of as a genius. It is equally possible to do fantastic work, communicate badly, and be thought of as a flippin' idiot. So no small share of what an architect does is communicating, managing those expectations, and helping, as the zinger of Brian's I was trying to remember before, that there's never enough time to do it right. I think that encapsulates it beautifully. The architect is the one who helps an organization start doing stuff right.